If extraterrestrials made an Earth landing in 2012, they could be forgiven for thinking that global brands rule the world, rule supreme. No longer content with inundating us with products from the cradle to the grave, companies are targeting babies in the womb, repackaging childhood nostalgia and selling it back to us. One man who understands the power of the product is brand guru and marketing maestro, Martin Lindstrom. Martin, welcome.
Thank you.
Give us an example of how brands are trying to reach babies, in the womb even.
Very scary observation we made. What I realized was, and is today, that we actually are affected by not only the sense of sound, but also the sense of taste while we're still in the womb. This has been confirmed by numerous scientific papers published over the years. But what we didn't know until recently is that there's brands which now are using this to their advantages, in particular in the Asian countries. And scientific and scary and futuristic as it may sound, is actually the case that we have coffee and chocolate brands, even shopping malls, which basically are giving pregnant women sweets with infused coffee. So when the pregnant women are eating it, they basically are priming their unborn babies to have a preference for it. So what we've seen in Philippines is exactly this taking the place, where newborn babies actually already have a preference for something as unusual as coffee at the age of 1 or 2 years.
That's riveting. And then does that continue? Do the brands attack the young children as well?
Well, more and more, because a lot of brands are very desperate. You have to remember, I'm one of the evil ones. I'm also a brand guy advising Fortune 100 brands. But I also do think that we need to put a line in the sand and say there needs to be some ethical guidelines. And what we see happening right now is a lot. For example, we see that 65% of all the brands you and I use when we are adults actually were decided when we are 4 or 5 years old. Why is that? Because mom is buying the brands, and we get used to it, and it kind of reminds us about the good old days as we grow up. We call that the rosy memories. And the rosy memories have now, from a scientific point of view, been proven to be the case in our brain. We actually see the past more positive than the present time. So brands are plugging into that right now by playing on the nostalgia and the good old days, because the more we're insecure, the more there's a recession around us, the more we want to go back in the time.
So give us an example, if you could, Martin, of a trick or more that's played by a brand owner on children or young adults or whatever. An example of the sort of tricks that are played on us.
Well, I think one of the most scary scenarios we observed as writing the book was how certain companies now are releasing computer games free of charge to kids between the age of 6 and 8. Now, these games are small penguins which have to survive, and you have to put dress on them, but suddenly this whole game stops. And it says, would you like to have some more points? And little Charlotte, 7 years of age, would click yes, and there'll be a questionnaire appearing. And the questionnaire will say, what type of car is your mom driving in? And what time is your parents going to bed? And what type of preference does your dad have for shaving cream? She fills out the questionnaire, unknowing that she actually is part of a plot here, and she gets 10 points extra so she can feed the penguin. These are some of the techniques we're seeing happening right now.
And what about someone who has a good brand campaign, but a poor product?
Well,
and do they still survive, or in the end, it'd be nice to think that the wise people of the world, that we all sort it out in the end, but we probably don't.
The good news is, no, they do not survive. We time after time see that the consumer, thank God, is actually very skeptical and actually very intelligent. And because we are so informed, and because in reality, right now, consumers are so well connected that they can tear down a brand in a matter of weeks, or they can build up a brand in a matter of weeks. So no, brands with poor quality products or services do not survive. But there is still a period of time where they will get a lot of money out of the consumer without the consumer being aware of what really goes on.
And things like makeup for 8-year-olds and things I read about. I mean, maybe 7-year-olds soon. I mean, going for people when they're young and vulnerable, in fact.
Well, we see that more and more happening, and I think the observation we have now, in particular in the UK, is that we've seen some of the largest retailers actually selling bras, selling paddings for bras to girls which are 7 and 8 years of age. We see there is an obsession among young kids to pretend like, and young girls in particular, to pretend like they're much older, and the marketing industry is pushing that a lot. But we also see as we get older that the industry is now targeting a lot of other things. I don't need to tell you that the men are now on the list for the cosmetic companies. The biggest growing segment right now is men.
Men for moisturizing.
Moisturizer and cosmetics in general. And what the industry is doing very cleverly is, of course, to make that entire category become much more masculine. My overall headline here is, again, I believe in brands, I love brands, but I think we're now at a stage where we really need to ask ourselves the ethical question about, are we going too far in desperation to gain more customers?
Absolutely. And what is the difference, in your eyes, between a brand and a product?
Well, from my point of view, the difference is that brand is all about an emotional connection. You feel like you kind of love it. You have this special affair which you can't really describe. And I'll just explain what the difference is here. A product is really, we take a test done with McDonald's French fries. A product is really, you take French fries in a brown paper bag with no logos on. And you take exactly the same product in a brown paper bag with a logo on. Because that exact experiment was conducted with kids. Kids in 86% of the cases said, I prefer the taste of the French fries in that bag, even though it was exactly the same taste in both of them. But they actually were not eating what's inside, they were eating the emotions which really was associated with it. So that's really what brands are.
Well, that's very clear. We want more of this. Will you come back and we'll go through some more of the tricks?
Absolutely,
that are being
if you
played
dare
on
to
us.
listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have you with us, Mark.
Thank you.